She looked me in the eye that night, her voice flat, and told me she just wasn't attracted to me anymore. Those words broke something inside me, but they also started me watching. For months before that conversation, I'd been begging for pieces of her, little scraps of affection or attention. After she said that, after she laid it all out so plainly, I finally stopped. The begging turned into a cold, quiet observation. We had been married for 12 years. Sarah and I met in college, building a life together from scratch. We weren't flashy people. We liked quiet evenings, good food, and the comfort of knowing someone always had your back. Our life had been predictable, yes, but also full. We had 2 kids, a nice house in the suburbs, and a rhythm that felt strong, unbreakable. Until it wasn't. The physical distance had started slowly, subtly about a year ago. First, it was just less spontaneous intimacy. Then, it became less frequent. Eventually, it was almost non-existent. I'd try to initiate something, to reconnect, and she would always have an excuse. She was tired, she had a headache, the kids might wake up. It started to wear on me, of course, but I always rationalized it. Life gets busy, work gets stressful, kids are draining. I tried everything I could think of. I hit the gym harder, bought new clothes, got a new haircut. I cooked her favorite meals. I planned date nights, even if they often ended with her picking at her food and staring into space. I bought her thoughtful gifts. I told her I loved her more. I tried to touch her more, just little brushes of my hand on her arm, or a quick kiss when I left for work. Most of it was met with a distracted nod, or a quick, almost automatic peck on my cheek. It felt like I was trying to wake up someone who was just pretending to be asleep. Then came that night, after another failed attempt to talk about us, about the growing chasm between us. She sighed, looked away, and then delivered the line that changed everything. "I just don't feel it anymore, Mark. I'm just not attracted to you." She said it like it was a fact of nature, like the sky was blue. It wasn't an accusation, just a weary statement. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. The world went silent for a moment, but what followed the pain wasn't anger, not immediately. It was a strange sense of clarity. If it was true, if she truly felt nothing, then what was there to fight for? I nodded, quietly. She didn't look surprised or relieved. She just looked tired. Over the next few weeks, I retreated. I stopped pushing, stopped asking, stopped initiating. The silence between us grew deeper, but it was a different kind of silence now. It was the silence of observation. I began to watch her, not with resentment, but with a strange, detached curiosity. If she wasn't attracted to me, did that mean she wasn't attracted to anyone? Or had her desire simply redirected? What I noticed first was her phone. It had always been just a phone, sitting on the counter charging by the bed. Now it was almost always in her hand, face down on the table, or tucked away in her purse. If I walked into the room, she'd often quickly swipe out of whatever app she was on, or just place it down without looking up. It wasn't overt, not like she was hiding it, but it was a distinct change in behavior. She became almost protective of it. Then, there was her appearance. For a while, she'd been comfortable, almost indifferent to what she wore around the house. Now, she started spending more time getting ready in the mornings. Not dramatically, but enough for me to notice. New blouses, more attention to her hair, a subtle shift in her makeup. When I commented that she looked nice, she'd just shrug and say, "Oh, this old thing? Just trying to make myself feel better." It sounded plausible, given her stated lack of desire for me, but it didn't quite sit right. Who was she trying to feel better for? Her schedule also started to shift. She used to be home pretty consistently after work, except for her regular Tuesday night book club. Suddenly, there were new meetings she had to attend, or she was grabbing dinner with Brenda more often. These weren't late nights, not usually, but they were often enough to mean she was gone an extra hour or two, 3 times a week. When I'd ask her about her day or what she did, her answers were vague, almost rehearsed. "Oh, just work stuff. Brenda and I just chatted." One evening I came home a little early from work because a meeting was canceled. Her car wasn't in the driveway, which wasn't unusual, but the front door was unlocked. I walked in, and the house was empty. On the kitchen counter, next to a half-empty coffee mug, was her phone. Unlocked. My heart thumped, a sudden, unexpected jolt. I looked at it, then at the door, then back at the phone. It was right there. I could pick it up, I could look. But I didn't. Not yet. I just stood there, staring at the screen, a notification for an unread message sitting at the top. The sender's name wasn't visible, just the start of the message. "Can't wait to see you again." Before I could fully process it, or make a decision, her car pulled into the driveway. I heard the engine cut out, the car door slam. I quickly walked into the living room, trying to look casual. She came in a moment later, a little flushed, a small smile playing on her lips. She didn't notice me right away. She walked straight to the counter, picked up her phone, glanced at the notification, and quickly cleared it. Her eyes met mine then, and the smile vanished. "Oh hey," she said, her voice a little too bright. "Didn't expect you home so early." I just nodded. Meeting got out. She still looked a little flustered, but she quickly composed herself. I watched her, and the pieces started to connect in my mind. The guarded phone, the new clothes, the vague nights out, the way she just cleared that message, and that smile, that genuine happy smile that I hadn't seen directed at me in a very long time. Her explanation of not attracted to me anymore now felt less like a sad truth and more like a carefully constructed wall. And something was very clearly happening on the other side of it. The image of Sarah's face, that genuine, radiant smile I hadn't seen in years, replayed in my mind. It was a stark contrast to the distant, often irritated expression she usually wore around me. Her swift, almost panicked action of clearing that message notification solidified a cold, hard suspicion in my gut. My wife's lack of attraction wasn't a general state. It was a highly specific one, aimed squarely at me. The realization was less a shock and more a quiet, devastating confirmation of what my subconscious had been whispering for weeks. I tried to act normal, to not let on that I'd seen anything. It was hard. The conversation continued as if nothing had happened, but for me, everything had changed. That night, lying in our separate beds, a routine we'd fallen into under the guise of me needing to get up early for work, sleep felt impossible. I kept running through the past few months. Her sudden need for new clothes, not just a few functional pieces, but outfits that looked like she was dressing for an occasion. Her hair, styled more often. The faint, unfamiliar scent of a new perfume. These things had once felt like she was trying to rekindle something for Narcissus. Now, they screamed of efforts made for someone else. Her phone became a constant, silent presence. It was always with her, always face down, always within arm's reach. If she left the room, even for a moment, it went with her. Sometimes I'd hear a soft chime, and she'd immediately turn away, her fingers flying across the screen. If I happened to walk into a room while she was on it, the screen would dim, or she'd quickly swipe to a different app. She would offer explanations like, "Just checking work emails," or "Brenda sent me something funny," but her body language told a different story. There was a guardedness, an intensity, that hadn't been there when she was truly just checking emails from her boss. The meetings and dinners with Brenda also began to stack up. They started subtly, once a week, then twice. Sometimes she would just say, "I'm going out for a bit," leaving it vague. When I asked for details, like, "Where are you going?" or "What time will you be back?" her answers were always evasive. "Just running some errands," or "I'll be back when I'm back." Her tone would carry an edge, as if my questions were an invasion of privacy, even in our own home. Our children, bless their oblivious hearts, would sometimes ask where Mommy was going, and she'd give them similar vague responses. It felt like she was building a second life, one where I had no place, and she didn't feel obligated to share any details. One evening, I came home to an empty house. Sarah had left a note saying she was out with Brenda and would be back later. The kids were with my parents for the night, so the silence was particularly stark. I decided to make dinner something simple. As I was getting out ingredients, I noticed a small, folded paper tucked under a stack of mail on the kitchen counter. It wasn't addressed to me, but it wasn't hidden either. It looked like a receipt. My heart pounded a little as I picked it up. It was from a wine bar downtown, a place Sarah and I had never gone to. The date was 2 nights prior, a night she had told me she was working late at the office. The receipt showed 2 glasses of a specific, somewhat expensive red wine, and a small appetizer. No mention of food that would suggest a full meal, but enough to indicate a relaxed, intimate setting. I felt a cold knot tighten in my stomach. She hadn't been working late. She'd been at a wine bar, drinking with someone. And it definitely wasn't me. My first instinct was to confront her, to throw the receipt in her face and demand an explanation. But then I remembered the decision I had made, to stop begging and start watching. I folded the receipt carefully, slipped it into my wallet, and pretended I hadn't seen it. The lie, her lie, hurt more than I thought possible. It wasn't just a lack of attraction, it was active deception. The next day I tried to subtly bring up the wine bar. "Hey, you know that new place, The Cellar? Have you ever been there?" I asked, trying to sound casual as we ate breakfast. She paused, spoon halfway to her mouth. "Oh, that place? No, not really my scene. Why?" Her eyes met mine briefly, a flicker of something unreadable in them. "Just saw it advertised," I said, dropping it. Her denial was quick, too quick, and her "not my scene" felt like a direct contradiction to the expensive wine listed on the receipt. She was lying. It wasn't just my suspicion anymore, it was a verifiable fact, however small. The following week brought more outings. Sarah started claiming she had to attend a new fitness class, 3 evenings a week. These classes always conveniently fell on the nights I was home from work earlier. She'd come home flushed, sometimes with a faint smell of unfamiliar cologne mixed with her perfume. When I'd try to offer to pick her up or suggest I join her, she'd demur, saying, "Oh, it's a women's-only class," or "It's just not really your thing, Mark." The excuses felt flimsy, and the cologne was a detail that gnawed at me. Could it be from someone else in a crowded gym? Maybe. But the combination of all the other small inconsistencies made me doubt. I found myself analyzing every word she said, every gesture, searching for more cracks in her narrative. The emotional distance between us became a vast chasm. She'd talk about her day with a detached politeness, never really engaging, never asking about mine. Our conversations revolved around the children, house logistics, and nothing more. The warmth, the shared laughter, the easy companionship we once had were now ghosts in our home. I felt like an unwelcome guest in my own marriage, constantly under observation, constantly being kept at arm's length. One afternoon, I was working from home, which was unusual for me. Sarah didn't know I was there. I'd come back early after an appointment. I heard her on the phone in the living room, her voice soft, hushed, almost melodic. It was a tone I hadn't heard her use in years, a tone reserved for deep intimacy. I couldn't make out the words, but the cadence, the lingering silences, the occasional soft laugh, spoke volumes. It was not a conversation with Brenda. It was not a work call. It was deeply personal. When she hung up, a few minutes later, she sighed contentedly. Then, she walked into the kitchen, looking surprised to see me. Her expression instantly shifted, that soft, happy glow replaced by her usual reserved demeanor. "Oh, Mark, you're home early," she said, her voice flat, devoid of the warmth I had just heard. The contrast hit me like a physical blow. The genuine happiness she shared with someone on the phone, immediately extinguished upon seeing me. It was undeniable now. The no attraction was a shield, a smokescreen. She was not only attracted to someone else, but she was actively cultivating that attraction, nurturing it, enjoying it, while systematically shutting me out. The anger simmered beneath my skin, but so did a profound sadness. I knew I couldn't just keep watching forever. The pieces were no longer ambiguous. They were forming a picture, and it was a picture that was tearing my world apart. I just needed to see the full canvas. The phone call Sarah had cut short. The radiant smile she'd worn just moments before, a smile I hadn't seen directed at me in months, perhaps years. That image burned itself into my mind. It was the final, undeniable proof that her desire wasn't dead. It had simply relocated. The ambiguity was gone. My wife was actively involved with someone else. The sadness was still there, a hollow ache in my chest, but it was now laced with a cold, clear resolve. I stopped begging, and now I was done just watching. I needed to know. I needed to see the full canvas, as I'd told myself, and I would. My investigation started small, with a renewed focus on her schedule. Sarah's late nights at work suddenly became more frequent, and dinners with Brenda popped up on the calendar at least once a week. I tried to keep my routine normal, tucking the kids into bed, reading them stories, but my mind was elsewhere, calculating. I started noticing the details. On a night she claimed to be working late, she'd leave around 5:30 p.m. as usual, but instead of returning by 7 p.m., it would often be closer to 9 or even 10 p.m. She'd come home, slip quietly into the house, and head straight to her separate bedroom. There were no work bags, no tired sighs, no complaints about a tough day. Instead, she often looked refreshed, energized almost. Her hair would be perfectly in place, sometimes smelling faintly of something sweet, not the stale office air. One Tuesday she announced another, dinner with Brenda. I noted the time she left, around 6:30 p.m. I waited until the kids were asleep, then I drove. I didn't follow her directly. Instead, I drove past the cellar, the wine bar, where I'd found the receipt for 2 glasses of wine. It was a long shot, but I had to check. I drove by slowly, once, then circled the block. Her car wasn't there. My heart sank. A brief flicker of self-doubt. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe she really was just with Brenda. I drove home, feeling foolish, but then I remembered the receipt, the specific date. It wasn't tonight. Tonight was a dinner with Brenda. I parked the car a few blocks away, killed the engine, and just sat there. I didn't know why. Maybe I was hoping for something, anything. An hour passed. Then, another. Around 9:45 p.m., a car pulled up to our driveway. It was Sarah's. I watched from the shadows as she got out. Her movements were fluid, almost buoyant. She was humming softly. As she walked up the path, she pulled out her phone, and I saw her thumb tapping quickly. She paused at the door, still looking at the screen, a small, private smile playing on her lips before she slipped inside. I drove home, the image of that private smile burning into me again. It wasn't the smile of someone tired after a long dinner with a friend. It was the smile of someone reliving a moment or anticipating the next. It was an intimate smile, one I once knew. The next morning, I made a point of asking about her evening. "How was dinner with Brenda?" I asked, trying to sound casual, as I poured coffee. "It was fine," she said, not looking up from her tablet. "Same old stuff, you know Brenda." "Yeah," I replied, watching her. "Did you guys go to the cellar again? I know you like their Pinot Noir." I held my breath. She looked up then, a flicker of something in her eyes, annoyance, maybe, or surprise, before she composed herself. "No, Mark, I told you, I haven't been to the cellar. We went to that new Italian place, Bella Luna." My stomach clenched. Bella Luna was across town. The cellar was barely 15 minutes from our house, and she'd distinctly denied ever being at the cellar before, yet the receipt was undeniably real. The lie was so smooth, so practiced. It wasn't just evasion, it was active deception. The cologne smell, I noticed it more often now, particularly after her fitness classes. It wasn't a feminine perfume. It was distinct, masculine, a fresh, woody scent that clung subtly to her clothes. One evening, after she'd showered and changed, her discarded gym clothes were draped over a chair. I picked up her sports bra, ostensibly to put it in the laundry basket. The scent was there, unmistakable. Not overwhelmingly strong, but definitely present. It wasn't mine. It definitely wasn't mine. My own cologne was a musky, heavier scent. This was lighter, younger. I started taking notice of her car. Her SUV, usually kept meticulously clean, now occasionally had a stray item. One day, a small, unfamiliar coffee cup, the kind from a local independent coffee shop, not her usual chain, sat in the cup holder. Another time, I noticed the passenger seat was adjusted differently, a little further back than I usually left it when I occasionally drove the car. Small things, easily dismissed. But together, they began to paint a picture. The most damning evidence, however, came from her phone, despite her continued vigilance. She was almost always on it, but she still made mistakes. One Saturday morning, she stepped into the shower, leaving her phone on the kitchen counter. I was making breakfast for the kids, my back to it. I heard the distinct ping of a message notification. I glanced over. The screen lit up. A contact name was visible. Alex. And underneath it, a partial message. Morning, beautiful. Can't stop thinking about last night. My blood ran cold. Morning, beautiful. Not honey, not sweetheart. Beautiful. It was intimate, affectionate, and clearly not meant for me. I didn't touch the phone. I didn't even move towards it. I just stared, letting the words sink in, burning them into my memory. The screen dimmed. Sarah came out of the shower a few minutes later, humming a tune. She picked up her phone, quickly swiping away the notification, her back to me. She didn't see me standing there, rigid, the spatula still in my hand. But I had seen enough. Alex. A name, a partial message. It wasn't the full canvas, but it was a central, vivid brushstroke. The next week, her schedule became even more erratic. She was running errands at odd hours, meeting a client on a Saturday afternoon, things she never used to do. I tried to suppress the anger, to stay calm, to think rationally. But the pain was a constant, sharp companion. I decided to confirm the Brenda alibi directly. I knew Brenda well enough, or at least I used to. I called her one afternoon, ostensibly to ask about a school event for the kids, knowing Brenda's kids were in the same grade. After we covered the school stuff, I casually asked, "Hey, how was that Italian place you and Sarah went to the other night, Bella Luna?" Sarah said it was new. There was a beat of silence on the other end. Bella Luna? Oh, Mark, I haven't been to Bella Luna in ages, Brenda said, her voice sounding genuinely surprised. Sarah and I haven't actually had dinner together in a few weeks. We were supposed to, but something came up for her, I think. My hand tightened around the phone. Oh, really? I must have misunderstood, I said, forcing a casual laugh. She mentioned it, so I figured you two went. My mistake. No worries, Brenda replied, still sounding a little confused. But if you're looking for a good Italian place, it really is great. I ended the call, my heart hammering. Bella Luna. Not only had Sarah lied about going there, but Brenda hadn't even been out with her. The entire dinner with Brenda story was a complete fabrication. It wasn't just an alibi for one specific night. It was a recurring, manufactured excuse. The pieces snapped together with a sickening precision. The guarded phone, the mysterious cologne, the working late and fitness classes that didn't add up, the radiant smiles, the constant denial, the Bella Luna lie, and now the name Alex, and the explicit, morning, beautiful, can't stop thinking about last night. It wasn't just a loss of attraction, it was a conscious, deliberate act of betrayal. She wasn't simply falling out of love, she was falling into someone else's arms. My quiet observations had transformed into a crushing certainty. The anger I'd been suppressing finally broke through, a raw, burning fire in my gut. But even stronger was the profound sense of loss. 12 years, 2 children, a life we built, all of it tainted, corroded by deception. I stood in the kitchen, the silence of the empty house pressing down on me. Sarah was out again, at another fitness class. The kids were at a friend's house. I had the next few hours to myself. The full canvas was almost complete. I knew what I needed to do, but I wasn't ready yet. I walked over to the calendar hanging in the kitchen. Tomorrow was Friday. Another late night at work for Sarah. My eyes lingered on the entry, then shifted to the date. It was October 24th. And then, a small, barely visible detail caught my eye. Faintly written in the margin next to the 24th, in a hurried, almost secret script, was a single initial, A. My blood ran cold for the second time that week. A. For Alex. It was subtle, easily missed, a small note to herself. But I saw it. It was her own little reminder, a secret kept in plain sight. Tomorrow. This was the night. I didn't need to wonder anymore. I just needed to prepare. The confrontation was coming. October 24th dawned like any other Tuesday, but for me, it felt like the eve of an execution. I went through the motions of work, tried to engage with the kids, but every moment was overshadowed by the knowledge of what was coming. I knew Sarah had planned something for tonight. The A on the calendar, her increased energy, the subtle signs I'd learned to read. It all pointed to this being a significant night for her, and for me. I made dinner, put the kids to bed, and waited. The house grew quiet, the kind of quiet that amplifies every creak, every tick of the clock. Sarah's car wasn't in the driveway. It wasn't until almost 10 p.m. that I heard the familiar crunch of tires on gravel. I didn't move from the living room couch, just sat there in the dim light, waiting for the door to open. She came in, quiet as always, trying not to disturb the sleeping house. She looked glowing. Her hair was down, styled. She wore a dress I hadn't seen before, and the scent of that unfamiliar perfume, mixed with a faint hint of masculine cologne, wafted into the room with her. She closed the door gently, then turned, finally noticing me sitting there in the near darkness. Her face, usually so composed and distant around me, shifted from a soft, almost dreamy expression to one of startled surprise, then, quickly, to a guarded neutrality. "Mark, what are you doing up?" she asked, her voice a little higher than usual, a forced casualness. She adjusted her purse on her shoulder, avoiding my gaze. I didn't answer right away. I just looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the person I married, but also a stranger. The one who had told me she wasn't attracted to me, yet clearly was radiating attraction from somewhere else. "Waiting," I finally said, my voice flat, devoid of emotion, though my insides churned. She stiffened. "Waiting for what? Is everything okay with the kids?" "The kids are fine," I assured her. "I was waiting for you. I thought we should talk." She hesitated, then sighed, a sound that always meant trouble. "Mark, can we do this tomorrow? It's late. I'm tired." The lie hung in the air, thick and heavy. She wasn't tired. She was energized, refreshed. "No, Sarah, we need to talk now," I said, my voice gaining a low, firm edge I hadn't used in years. "Tonight." She walked into the living room, but kept her distance, standing by the entrance, her arms crossed, a clear barrier. "About what?" she challenged, her tone defensive already. I took a deep breath. This was it, no backing down. "About why you lied to me. About why you told me you weren't attracted to me, when the truth was, you just weren't attracted to me anymore." I emphasized the last 2 words, letting them hang in the air. Her eyes narrowed. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the new clothes, the new perfume, the suddenly styled hair," I listed, keeping my voice steady. "I'm talking about the late nights, the dinners with Brenda, that Brenda knows nothing about. I'm talking about the scent of cologne on your dress tonight, and the one I've been smelling for weeks after your Fitness classes. She paled. Her composure began to crack. "You've been checking my clothes," she accused, trying to turn it around on me. "I've been paying attention," I corrected her. "Something you haven't done for me in a long time." I also paid attention to the receipt from the cellar for 2 glasses of wine and an appetizer on a night you were working late. You denied ever being there, remember? She swallowed hard, her eyes darting around the room, avoiding mine completely. "That was just a work thing. A client. A client you had 2 glasses of wine and an appetizer with, alone? A client you went to the cellar with, even though you lied and said you hadn't." I paused, letting the silence press on her. "And the adjusted passenger seat in your car, Sarah? The unfamiliar coffee cup I found on Tuesday morning?" Her chest rose and fell rapidly. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. The denials were drying up. "And Alex," I continued, pressing harder, watching her flinch at the name. "Who's Alex, Sarah?" Her head snapped up, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and rage. "How do you know about Alex?" It wasn't a question, it was an admission. "Your phone was unlocked, Sarah. A message popped up. Morning, beautiful. Can't stop thinking about last night. That was Alex, wasn't it? The one who makes you smile, that genuine, radiant smile I haven't seen directed at me in years? The one you marked on our kitchen calendar for tonight?" I stood up then, slowly, deliberately. Next to October 24th? That was for Alex, wasn't it? This night. She collapsed onto the nearby armchair, covering her face with her hands. Her shoulders began to shake, but there were no tears, not yet. Just the tremor of a caught person. "Mark, Her voice was muffled, broken. "Don't," I cut her off. "Don't tell me you're sorry. Don't tell me it was a mistake. Just tell me the truth, Sarah. All of it. From the beginning. I'm not attracted to you anymore, just a convenient lie, so you could go and find that attraction somewhere else." She dropped her hands, her face a mess of shame and defiance. "It wasn't a lie," she whispered, but her eyes wouldn't meet mine. "Not entirely. I wasn't happy. I felt like we were roommates. You weren't paying attention to me. I needed something more. So you decided to find it with someone else, behind my back, while living in my house, raising our kids?" I asked, my voice rising, the calm finally breaking. The anger was a cold fire in my gut. "You built a wall around yourself, told me you had no desire, then used that as an excuse to go searching for it with another man? Is that it?" She finally looked at me, and in her eyes, I saw not regret for her actions, but for getting caught. "I didn't mean for it to happen, Mark," she pleaded, but the words felt hollow. "It just did. He listened to me. He made me feel seen." "Seen?" I scoffed. "And I didn't? For 12 years I wasn't seeing you? Or was it just that I wasn't seeing the asterisk new you, the one who was seeking validation outside our marriage?" My mind flashed back to all the times I tried to connect, to talk, to initiate closeness, and was met with distance, excuses, and that final crushing statement. All the pain I'd felt, all the self-doubt, all the begging for her affection, it had been a charade. "It started slow," she admitted, her voice barely audible. "A work contact. Alex, he was just friendly, and then it became more. Dinners, like you said. Then other things." "Other things," I repeated, the words tasting like ash. "So it's not just emotional then, is it?" She shook her head slowly, tears finally welling up and spilling down her cheeks. "No," she whispered. "It's physical too. It has been for a few months." A few months. All the little pieces fell into place then. The new energy, the guarded phone, the sudden absences. It wasn't a general loss of desire. It was a transfer. A replacement. She just didn't want Sticksaff. My head swam with the implications, the profound betrayal. The worst part wasn't just the affair itself, but the deliberate, calculated deception that preceded it, the gaslighting of my own feelings, the slow erosion of my self-worth. She had built her new desire on the wreckage of my trust. "So what now, Sarah?" I asked, my voice now devoid of anger, just bone-deep weariness. The fight had drained me. The truth, however painful, brought a strange, cold clarity. She looked up, her eyes pleading, but I saw no path back. "I don't know, Mark. Can we work through this for the kids?" The kids. Always the kids. The convenient shield. "You think we can work through this?" I asked, a bitter laugh escaping me. "You lied to me for months, made me believe I was some undesirable husk, all while you were with another man. You actively deceived me, orchestrated a double life, and now you want to work through it? There's nothing left to work with, Sarah. You broke it all." "I can end it with Alex," she said, desperation creeping into her tone. "I can try to fix things here." "You can end it with Alex," I agreed. "But you can't undo the lies. You can't unring that bell. And I can't look at you anymore without seeing all of this, without hearing those words. I'm just not attracted to you anymore, knowing what they really meant." The conversation continued late into the night, but it wasn't a negotiation. It was an unwinding, a dismantling. I told her I couldn't stay here, not with her. Not after this. The trust was gone, annihilated. The foundation of our marriage had crumbled under the weight of her deceit. She cried, she begged, she blamed me for our distance, but none of it mattered anymore. The quiet observer in me, the one who had finally stopped begging and started watching, had seen enough. The next morning, the house felt different. The kids sensed it too, their usual morning chatter muted. I told Sarah I would be staying at my brother's place for a while. She didn't argue. She just nodded, her eyes red-rimmed. I packed a small bag, mostly essentials. As I walked out the door, I didn't look back. The marriage I thought I had, the one I had desperately tried to save, was an illusion. It had died long before she uttered those crushing words, and her affair was just the final, ugly proof. The sting of betrayal was still raw, but underneath it a quiet resolve began to form. My journey of watching was over. Now, a different kind of journey was beginning,